The gravel tore at my knees as I scrambled to stand, palms burning from the rough driveway. The sun blazed overhead, yet all I felt was cold. My father's hand clamped around my wrist, yanking me back before I could rise. "Don't you ever block your sister's car again," he growled, dragging me across the driveway like I was nothing but trash. I hadn't even blocked her car. I'd stepped out for a textbook from the porch when Lena suddenly decided she had to leave. One whiny complaint, "Dad, she's in the way again," and he was on me before I could explain. My mom watched from the porch, arms crossed, iced tea in hand like it was a show she'd seen 100 times. "She wants to live here for free and take up space," she called. "That trash can finally has some use." And then he shoved me hard into the plastic city bin. The lid slammed against my back, rattling shut with a hollow bang. The stench wrapped around me. I struggled to climb out, but the angle was awkward, humiliating. By her car, Lena, designer sundress, phone out, was filming. "Finally in a place that fits," she smirked. I was 25, degree in biochem, still chasing entry-level jobs, saving for an apartment, just staying here a few weeks, or so I told myself, but every day felt less like shelter, more like punishment. Dad hadn't always been this way. He was never warm, but at least steady until Lena turned 15. Suddenly she was the golden one: private dance lessons, summer trips abroad. When I asked for new shoes for my internship, the answer was always the same: "Lena needs it more." Now, neglect had hardened into open cruelty. That night I locked myself in the basement. The single bulb buzzed overhead. I wanted to scream, to cry, but instead I sat in silence, fury simmering until it pressed against my ribs. I didn't even eat. At 11 p.m., Mom knocked, not gently. "You going to hide down there, or are you going to clean up the trash you scattered everywhere?" I opened the door. Her face was stone. "You know what you are," she said, tapping her glass. "A leech with a fake education. Lena's building something real. You just stink up the house." She turned and walked away. The next morning, they were gone. A note on the fridge in Dad's handwriting. "Road trip with Lena. Gone for the week. Don't mess up the house." I could have taken that as my chance to leave, but with $93 in my account and no job offers, where would I go? I tried calling Cassie, the last friend I had nearby. No answer. The last time she'd visited, Mom humiliated her for bringing poor girl vibes onto the porch. I didn't blame her for disappearing. Then my phone buzzed. A text from Lena. A photo of my suitcase sitting at the curb. "Oops, took a detour. Hope you like the new view." I bolted outside. The suitcase was gone. My phone buzzed again. "My dad. We dropped your stuff off," he said flatly. 91st Street Shelter in Ashland. "Best start learning how the world works. Let's see how you survive." Click. I stood barefoot on the porch, chest caving like it might fold in on itself. 300 meters from Ashland, and they actually did it. They left me in that house with nothing. No clothes, no ID, no keys, my laptop, my research notes, even my battered backpack gone. And in the silence, my mom's voice echoed, "You stink up our space." Something broke inside me, not with rage, something cleaner, purpose. I didn't cry, didn't scream. I straightened, turned, and walked to the neighbors. "Mrs. Talia answered, sweet, silver-haired, always asking about my studies. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Sweetheart, what happened to you?" I told her the truth, all of it. She didn't gasp, didn't pity me, she just pursed her lips and said, "Well, maybe it's time someone taught them how survival really works." She pressed $40 into my hand and slipped me a card. "My nephew, Malik, owns a restoration shop 2 towns over. Call him, he owes me. And you," she tapped my arm, "you're smarter than they'll ever be." I stared at the card. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like trash. I felt like a beginning. The shop was no salvation. Not at first. The work was brutal. I swept sawdust until my lungs choked on it, sanded bedposts until my fingers cracked, hauled armoires twice my weight. But Malik never shouted. He observed, listened, and when I handed him a reupholstered bench after 2 days of sweat and raw fingertips, he nodded. "You've got grit," he said simply. "That's rarer than talent." He couldn't know what those words meant. I hadn't heard praise in years. With the tiny stipend he gave me, I bought a thrift store shirt, 1 pair of jeans, and a burner phone, slept on a cot in the back room, worked, studied every night, design specs, wood stains, joinery techniques like survival itself depended on it, because it did. By the 3rd month, Malik trusted me with a client of my own, a widow with a weathered roll-top desk that had belonged to her husband. When I unveiled it oak-polished back to a golden glow, her hands trembled over the surface. "I haven't seen it shine like this since our wedding," she whispered. Tears filled her eyes. She paid in cash, more than I'd earned in 2 months combined. I stood in the alley behind the shop, envelope clutched to my chest, cold air filling my lungs. For the first time in a long time, maybe ever, I believed I could build a life worth living. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was building. And in all that time, my family never called, not to check if I was safe, not to ask if I needed help, not even to mock me. They had written me off like bad credit, no longer useful to their performance of perfection. But I hadn't forgotten. One night, curiosity pulled me online. I searched Lena. Her public Instagram was glowing with filtered bliss. The newest photo, a luxury picnic in our backyard, champagne flutes glittering. Caption: "When dead weight finally disappears, life tastes like rosé." The rage I thought I'd buried came back, not wild, but sharp, controlled. They weren't just ignoring me, they were celebrating my absence. That was the night I made a decision. I wouldn't just survive, I'd eclipse them. I enrolled in community college night classes, carpentry and design. 2 years later, I launched my own shop, reclaimed wood, full restorations, custom builds. It grew fast. Interior designers, real estate stagers, even TV set decorators wanted my work. I built a new name for myself, Rue Hart. No one knew where I came from, no one needed to. Until one day, a familiar name appeared in my inbox, Martha Brenton, my mother. She had no idea who she was writing to. Subject line: inquiry for custom dining table urgent. I almost laughed. She wanted a centerpiece for a gala Lena was hosting in our old backyard. A statement piece, something bold, authentic, unforgettable. I doubled my usual rate. They didn't even blink. On delivery day, I didn't go. I sent the table with a driver, but I tucked a letter beneath the glass centerpiece. Only they would understand. It didn't drip with rage, just truth. "You dragged me across the driveway like I was nothing, but I turned your driveway into my launching point. This table is the only piece of me you'll ever afford again. Ah, Hart." And beneath the table, etched into the wood where only a careful eye would find it, "Dead weight floats when you're made of stone." Later, Malik told me Lena went pale, my mom locked herself in her room, and my dad stormed out of the gala cursing about traitors in front of 30 guests. It was perfect. But it wasn't the end. That winter, an envelope showed up in my mail, no return address. Inside, a photo of my childhood home, foreclosure pending scrawled across the back. The house, their altar, their stage, the place they had sacrificed me for their image, now crumbling. I didn't smile, I didn't laugh, I just felt still. A week later, Malik sat across from me in the shop while I sanded a walnut table. "You going to help them?" he asked quietly. "No," I said, "I'll give them one last thing to cherish." The auction came quick. I didn't go. Instead, I sent a young couple I'd once helped, a pair who had lost everything in a storm. I'd restored their ruined furniture for free. They had just had a baby. Good people, deserving. When the gavel fell, they won. The house, my prison, was gone from my family's hands. But that wasn't the revenge, that was just the shift. The revenge was what I did next. I asked the couple to wait 2 weeks before moving in, just 2. Then I printed invitations on thick, embossed cardstock. Open house celebration. a new beginning for 27, Bearwood Drive. I hand-delivered one to my parents, one to Lena. On the day of the open house, I stood across the street as they pulled up, faces tense with hope. Maybe they expected reconciliation, maybe an apology, maybe even a chance to reclaim what they had lost. Instead, they were greeted by a handmade wooden sign staked into the lawn. This home was rebuilt with grace, not guilt. The young couple stood on the porch, baby in their arms, welcoming them with bright smiles. "You must be here for Rue," the woman said gently. "She gave us everything." My father's jaw dropped. My mother blinked, dazed, like she was trying to wake from a dream. Lena flushed crimson. I stepped out from behind a hedge. No makeup, no designer clothes, just overalls, work gloves stained from sanding, clipboard in hand. They froze. "Why?" my father barked finally. "Why would you give it to them? After everything, After everything." I cut him off. "I gave it to people who would never slam my face into a counter, who would never scream down a staircase at me, who would never drag me across the gravel just to remind me I was powerless." Lena sneered. "You think this makes you better?" "No," I said evenly. "This makes me free. You could have helped us. You should have. You were our daughter." I let a faint smile touch my lips. "You threw your daughter in a trash can. Don't act surprised when she learns to recycle." Silence. Then, without another word, they turned to leave. But I stopped them, handed them a small wooden box, polished, simple, my last piece for them. Inside, a crushed soda can, an old photo of me, blooded knees, stuffed in the trash, and a note. "You taught me what worthlessness looks like, so I gave it back." I never saw them again, not really. A year later, an email came under a fake name, requesting a commission. I knew it was Lena. I declined, blocked the address. Now I build for people who understand value, not just price, with my hands, my name, my stories. Not for revenge anymore, for proof that I survived what they tried to destroy, and I turned broken wood into something beautiful.